What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's video. I'm actually excited to do this one because it's really interesting and intriguing to me, because if you love bodybuilding, you have heard the debate: which era of bodybuilding is the best? Is it these days where we have people like, the Phil Heaths, the Kai Greens, the Sean Rodens, and that list can go on and on. Is it the era of the Ronnie Colemans, the Jay Cutlers, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, Dorian Yates? Or is it the golden era, which arguably a lot of people like to say that was the pinnacle of bodybuilding? It combined aesthetics, mass without being too much. And we're talking about the likes of people like Franco Columbu, Sergio Oliva, Lou Ferrigno, and of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, the physiques differed as well, and we can sit here and debate the major differences between the two, whether it be, we just know more about training now, so that's why guys are bigger. The drugs protocols that people are using now is different, that's why they're bigger. Things like insulin and growth hormone are more dominant compared to the golden era. But one thing without a doubt that is different is also the diet. And that's one thing we can kind of focus on, because we can kind of generalize the popularity of what was the golden era diet, because it's kind of unique. If we look at the golden era in comparison to what we see now, the golden era was actually a very low carb, high fat, high protein diet. I mean, if you think of bodybuilders of recent years, people like Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, who dominated bodybuilding for such a long time, man, you can see videos of Jay Cutler talking about eating over 1,000 grams of carbs a day. I mean, I know you guys have seen, lightweight baby Ronnie Coleman in his videos where he's just pounding food, eating a lot of carbs, just eating a ton of food in general. That guy was one of the biggest, baddest, and best bodybuilders ever. But if we compare that to people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, man, the amount of carbs that they were eating in comparison to the golden era was just insane. Because back in the day, the amount of carbs that they consumed was fairly low. In fact, rice wasn't even a very common carbohydrate with people in that golden era. You might see them throwing things like oatmeal with breakfast, maybe some potatoes, but for the most part, they relied on fats and high protein. A lot of their diets actually kind of resemble somewhat of a modified ketogenic diet. They had a lot of beef in their diet. Beef patties were huge. It was quick and convenient. All right, it wasn't uncommon to see breakfast with a beef patty in there. Eggs were huge, and we're not talking egg whites. We're talking whole eggs. In fact, I can't really even think of, a very popular golden era bodybuilder who kind of idolizes egg whites. It was all about whole eggs, and they would eat that throughout the day. Things like cheese omelets with whole eggs was popular as well. So the animal protein was very, very, very high. It wasn't uncommon to see like some bacon and sausage there in the morning, but surprisingly, a huge food source for these guys was cottage cheese. Something they could snack on, slower digesting protein. They were really big on eating frequently in a lot of meals. So cottage cheese was huge for people eating that at night with other meals. And like I said, carbohydrates were a source that weren't big on rice. Like, when you think of rice in bodybuilding, you're like, it's the staple. Yams and sweet potatoes, but that really wasn't what they consumed. They actually didn't eat a ton of vegetables, for example. Like, they didn't have loads of broccoli, loads of asparagus and green beans and things like that too. But it wasn't uncommon to see, a nice salad before dinner, or lunch or a big meal. So salad was a pretty popular and dominant source of them getting veggies, but you really didn't see them pounding down copious amounts of broccoli and vegetables like that. Fruit was used sparingly. You could see it from time to time, but really wasn't a huge aspect, but it was still there. But for the most part, these guys really thrived on beef. It was probably their number one animal source of protein. Chicken was there as well, canned tuna, but for a lot of these guys, you can hear them reference talking about beef all the time. Tom Platz was talking about, I believe it was Sergio Oliva, used to go down, because you guys are going to remember this golden era at the mecca of bodybuilding in Venice. Man, they had the gym, they had the beach, and they had all these restaurants like in walking distances. They truly lived that life, right? He would talk about how Sergio would eat like a pound of steak while tanning, and he would just laugh. So red meat was definitely huge. Now, as the bodybuilders got closer to competing in shows, you would see them, eat a little bit more chicken, turkey, tuna. Fish really wasn't huge and popular. You know, you didn't see bodybuilders eating salmon all the time, tilapia, you know, and cod. That wasn't just a super common, relevant, you know, protein source. Beef, eggs, cheese, cottage cheese, you know, some fruit, salad were really the dominant sources for these guys. Protein shakes weren't even very popular. You know, there were minimal options. They were just kind of coming in. They were expensive and they tasted bad. And another thing to kind of point out is that they trained a lot, man. These guys trained twice a day a lot of the times, morning and then evening. It was a huge culture. You know, if you've ever seen Pumping Iron, you know, these guys like came almost in like a gang and trained hard twice a day. So they were burning a lot more calories. And like I said, they didn't necessarily rely on carbs to fuel them. It was the high protein and high fat. And another thing that they were infamous for were their cheat days, man. A day out of the week, they would just go eat a ton of food, man. They would just stock up, replenish their bodies, and pack in everything that they needed to kind of satisfy from kind of having a more simple, bland, but apparently effective diet for these guys back in the day. So who knows, you know, what is the biggest difference in bodybuilders from the golden era to now? You know, one of the biggest visual changes is the waist. You know, you see bigger waist on people these days. That could be a combination of a lot of things, but one thing, it could be the combination of maybe less drugs and less carbohydrates and just sheer food volume. That maybe that was the secret to the type of aesthetics and physiques that we saw in the golden era. So that was a typical diet. Red meat was huge, man, and it's funny because red meat's making its way back. Maybe we're coming on a new age of a golden era in bodybuilding. Who knows, man? Classic physique is back. So that was a good generalization of the golden era bodybuilding diet. Let me know what you guys think. You know, it's actually sounds like a pretty fun diet. So thank you guys for tuning into this video. JR Barthel. If you guys are new, hit subscribe. If you like videos like this, hit the like button. It helps. Leave a comment, and I'll have more videos coming soon.